Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. If you're a student of mine, you know these two gentlemen as the Three Amigos. This is a session that I have been looking forward to do for a while. If you're a follower of mine on YouTube and watching this on Sunday, you are in for a treat. I believe this video. So I think I've done 7,000 videos on YouTube, maybe 7,200, something crazy like that. I mean this with every fiber of my body. This is going to be the most valuable video I have ever done. I believe this video, this 90-minute session, can fundamentally change people's lives. I believe there will be more than one person that watches this, understands the story of Matt and Dion, and goes, if those two guys, man, those two guys can do it, I can do it. And that's exactly what you should be thinking. We will have them introduce their story just because we don't know if this is the first time you are watching it. I will have some basic questions, but again, this session is for you. Please get your questions into the chat early. We are going to go for 90 minutes. We will answer any and of all questions. But again, please get your questions in now. So without further ado, let's welcome the guys to the show. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And Dion, how are you?
Howdy, doing great. Super excited about this.
Yeah, so Dion, the camera is on you. So let's start with you. Do me a favor. Let's pretend somebody doesn't know the Three Amigos. They don't know Dion Talk. Give us your history, your story, starting when you had 3 kids, not 2, $79,000 in debt, and you start realizing that house hacking has to be the answer. Give us 3 to 5 minutes. Tell us the Dion story and why somebody watching this thinks if he can do it, I can do it.
Let me try for the 60-second elevator pitch. 10 years ago, I found myself a little over that now at 40, never had $1,000 in the bank, tried for 2 pensions. After Desert Storm, the Marine Corps downsized. And in 2008, the recession hit, so I got laid off from a police department. So I was tired of my sources of income being taken away. I was a single parent with 3 kids, found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name that I didn't know existed until the divorce. Used what we're going to talk about today, house hacking combined with buy and hold real estate. A little over 10 years later, net worth in the multiple millions, cash flow enough for me to quit a 6-figure job, made work completely optional because I was willing to house hack.
Yeah. And the real key parts for me, again, I'm trying to be that person watching this. It's never seen one rental at a time, doesn't know the Three Amigos, doesn't know Dion Talk. You start this journey that ends with leaving a 6-figure job, ends being a multimillionaire. But you started when you were making $17 an hour, raising 3 kids on your own. That's amazing. House hacking did that, right?
There will be a time in today's video where I want to explain different types of house hacking, and I'll break those down after we get through Matt's intro. And there was one that I did before I was an investor that made it possible for me to go through the police academy as a single parent with 3 kids. So there's versions where we share our living space with people. There's versions where we're looking at the financing, but what we're really doing is what can we do with intention on how we live that can have a bigger impact on our future than almost anything we do with work or saving.
Yeah. And again, I don't have many regrets in my life, which I say feeling very good, right? Not many people can say that, but the one thing that I regret is not house hacking at 20. I was in a position, I had a job and good credit. I could have house hacked in the Bay Area and I would be worth multiple millions more than I am today. So this is a big regret. So Matt, again, tell us your story, right? Your portfolio is well over 100 now. You're just killing it. You're the not retired guy. I love that. You still put that on there. I appreciate that. Not that you couldn't retire. It's just
a daily reminder.
Yeah. The Pink Panther, the inside joke. But let's be honest. Again, somebody watching this, Matt, statistically speaking, is not supposed to be here.
No.
He stopped going to school at 13. Generally speaking, that's a dumbass move. Just dumb. This guy used to go to the dollar menu at McDonald's as a treat.
Yes.
He's not supposed to be here.
No.
He is here because of house hacking. So
Yes.
Matt, give us your story. Pretend like somebody that hasn't heard it.
Sure.
And again, if you can do it, anybody can do it. That's what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, I think that's true. So ninth grade dropout, as you said, I was still living at home, but I was working jobs. And when you're that age, you take any job that you can get, and that's it. And so as soon as I became of age, my mother said, time to move on. And I said, okay. And so I just started looking around to all my friends and said, okay, what, do you have a house? Do you have an apartment? Like, I looked at how much money I was making. I was making, a couple $100s a week, $200-300 a week. You can't afford anything on a couple $100s a week. After taxes, I worked at a video store. That was my biggest job. And I made $5.25 an hour. It was $167.50 after taxes.
Not that you remember anything.
Yeah. Not that I remember at all. And then I got turned down for a job at Walmart. So yeah, that was tough to take. But what I did was, it really kind of started out as the hacky, which was I needed a place to stay. And so I looked around, and I had a friend who had, he had a place, and I said, I just want to rent a room from you. And we kind of went back and forth on what was fair. And I totally pulled on his best buddy heartstrings. I was just like, could I do like 250?
Come on, man. Come on. You could do it.
Yeah. He's like, okay. And so that's what I did. And so there it started. So I was there for about a year. And then after that, kind of bounced. And then after that kind of process, that kind of put it in my head. Then I got a better job, started saving up money. And I was like, I got to get on the property ladder as soon as possible. I want to be in the position he was in, where somebody's paying me to live, or paying to live in my house. And so I found the right place. I found a roommate, because they looked at it and the bank said, you cannot qualify for this property. And I said, well, what if I brought in a roommate? And they're like, yeah, depends on what the rent you're going to charge is. So I basically put something out there with a whole bunch of friends and friends of friends. And it was $1,000 a month is what I was charging for the room, because it was a really nice condo in the city, looking at the Boston skyline, and got that. And with his 80% of his rent, I was actually able to qualify. They qualified me for the loan. I was able to buy the place. I bought it with 3.5% down, had that property for a few years, and then just really kind of, quite frankly, fell in love with that. I didn't love the roommate thing, but at that age, like, who doesn't have roommates? But it really just then essentially evolved into, I was home all the time. I worked from home even a lot then. This was over 20 years ago. I still worked and dial up, and what a nightmare that was, but I still worked a lot from home. But really what that turned into, that was the catalyst for then saying, this isn't the worst way to live. I don't really mind it that badly. And then it became, instead of having to actually have live-in roommates, it became, buying three units and living in one, and basically living for free. And all of my income, literally all of it at that point, went right to savings to then buy the next property. So I house hacked. I did it 9 times over a 13-year period.
Yeah. And again, one of the things that I really want, I pushed it. When did I push it? I think it was on the live stream this morning, that all of my experts, you two, are obviously on that list. A lot of people don't realize that, the 8 or 9 millionaires that come back to my channel every week, we were all uncomfortable for a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you might look at what we have today and go, I want that. But, a lot of folks are soft. Right. And again, I always go back to Anna Kelly, right? She lived in the big house. She had the American dream. Yeah. And, how many people on this now would sell that, move in with in-laws? You want to talk about a non-starter with me?
Agreed.
Sorry, Olivia. No. But even going from the big pad to the 2-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo. I mean, fourplex, right? So, that's what it took. And she has said that was, again, Anna Kelly.
Yeah.
Thousands of units she's a part of.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of dollars. She will tell you her best financial decision was house hacking, that down select. So again, don't be soft. Don't be soft.
No, I mean, I think to that end, Mike, I'm soft in the middle, hard up here. Wicked hard.
Wicked hard. Yeah.
Wicked had. But I think that that's what people have to get the mindset of is it is an investment. I always looked at it as it is an investment in my future. It's an,
Yeah.
if I can do it now is the time to do it. I don't want to do it when I have a wife and 3 kids. I don't want to do it. I don't want to have to do it when that's my life.
Yeah.
And so it was just on purpose making the decision that this is a 3 or 4 year, that's it, journey, which is less than 5% of most people's lives.
Yeah.
This is an investment that will set me and my family up for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. So Matt, we're going to come back to you on the 4, 3, 2, 1, but I want to go back to Dion now and talk about the different types of house hacking that he highlighted first.
Sure.
So Dion, tell us what you got.
Okay, thanks. I usually, for the last 10 years, I've been teaching CDL school out in the sunlight. So this is my teaching hat. So this will be a short class on house hacking. A lot of people look to the simplest definition. And whenever house hacking comes up, they go, reduce or eliminate your largest expense, which is housing. And so we get dialed into this. Okay, if I rent out rooms, I'm paying less. If I live in one unit and I rent out other units, I'm paying less or being paid to live there. So that's the house hacking that everybody focuses on. People forget that most of us between the age of 18 and in our 20s had roommates when we were renting. It's like we're okay with having somebody help us pay someone else's mortgage, but as soon as it's our mortgage, our brain switches flips the switch, and we don't want somebody to help us pay our mortgage. So I get roommates might not be the thing. My original strategy for house hacking was to buy a single family house, live in it for at least a year, then buy another one and live in it for at least a year and then live in another one. So the other benefit that a lot of people kind of gloss over is the owner occupied lending aspects to house hacking. So saving up 20, 25, or 30%, depending on what type of lending you're using, can take a long time. But saving up zero, and a lot of people talk about VA loans when they talk about zero down payments. But there's a lot of conventional loan products out there where you're going to pay 3% down, but some first-time home buyer program will cover the other expense to where it's almost zero out of pocket to buy a house. I did that in 1998, didn't use a VA loan, used first-time home buyer, got in 104% of loan value. So they wrapped the closing costs into it. I moved into the house, walked away with a $1,200 check to buy that house a million years ago. So those have been around for a long time. So you can buy a house with low money down. And if it's that my spouse doesn't want somebody living with us, or my spouse doesn't want somebody on the other side of our garage, or even in an ADU that isn't touching our house, you can buy a house, live in it for a few years, then move to another one and turn that one into a rental using that owner occupied lending. If you use FHA, yes, you'll have to refinance out of it to use FHA again. But conventional loans, you can have up to 10 in your name without, whether that's owner occupied or not. The other benefit to it is lower interest rate. Since you're intending to occupy, it's your primary residence. And people are less likely to give up their primary residence as they are as likely to give up a rental. So there's less risk for the lenders. So they give you a lower interest rate. So lower down payment, better interest rate, easier to start cash flow. All of the different versions of house hacking can be from renting out rooms, buying with the intent of turning it into a rental, living in one unit of a small multifamily, which could be a house with an ADU. So you're not even touching buildings, no different than having a neighbor, except now you get to pick the neighbor. Or the version that I've used twice now, buying a duplex first, living in one side, renting out the other. Or now I'm living in a four-plex, living in one unit, renting out the other. And I also rent out a room in my unit because I'm not here very often. But there's a really strong, powerful thing for house hacking that I've only heard mentioned a few times. It's the thing that gave me the ability to invest. So if we flash back to where I started, a bunch of bad debt, a low income, 3 kids, bad debt to income ratio. No one was going to sell me a house. No one was going to sell me a small multifamily. So on lender's recommendation, what I did, a form of house hacking, was I owned my house on a lake, 4-bedroom, kids totally happy in their school district. We moved into an apartment, rented out the house for 2 years to get rental income on our tax returns. So our house hacking wasn't even being on the property. So now I'm in an apartment renting out the house. After 2 years with that rental income on my tax returns, I was then able to buy a duplex. The lender would look at the income from the house and the income from the other side of the duplex in my debt to income ratio, basically giving me the ability to buy any amount of property up to what I could save the down payment for. And for that, I did a 5% down conventional. So there's so many different types that we could break down the lending to, but I just want people to think, When I hear house hacking, I can't do it because my kids or my spouse. And I want to flip that. Because of your kids or your spouse, that's the reason to house hack. It could be something where you just haven't had the conversation. And I was a single parent with 3 kids. My kids were living on a lake in the school districts they were at for years. What do you think their response would be? But when I presented it to them, my daughters got excited. Wait, we're going to move to a new school district. I get to be the new girl. And we're going to live in an apartment complex where they have a pool and a gym and a whole bunch of other kids to play with. Like the things that I would have sat back and said, there's no way I can do this. My kids aren't going to want to do that. They wanted to. And if your spouse doesn't want to share living space with people, doesn't want to live in a unit because you're already in a house, look at the other versions. Turning your house into a rental or buying a house with an ADU for that owner-occupied lending aspect. So there almost isn't a reason not to house hack. It's just that we have to choose intentionally. This is how I'm going to design the way I live to make it so much easier to invest in real estate.
Yeah. That was very well done. This is why Dion's a teacher, and I love to see what he's going to do. And now that he's officially retired, see where he takes Dion talk, because I think we're all going to see him do bigger and bigger things because he's a naturally born teacher. We're going to switch to Matt now and talk about the 4-3-2-1 strategy. And this is what house hacking is to me. Dion kind of touched on it. There's all the reasons: cheaper debt, lower down, all of those things. Go tackle your biggest expense, rent, versus the latte factor. Sure. But really what anchored it for me is when Matt, the lumberjack, brought in the 4-3-2-1, because again, I like to plan, right? I'm always trying to look out into the future. And when you took house hacking and you said, Zuber, we can do the 4-3-2-1, get people to 10 units, and frankly, to become a millionaire that probably can live financially free in most cases. I'm like, I get it now. So tell everybody what the 4-3-2-1 strategy is, why it works, why it's so magical, and why people should be thinking about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, necessity was the mother of invention. For me, we got capped on units and we couldn't buy any more units. And so for us,
it was on loans.
Yes. Yep. On loans. Yeah. So what ends up happening is Fannie and Freddie passed the law in 2007 saying no more buildings. You can only have 4. Now the rule's 10, but expect that very well could tighten again if we go into a deep recession. So they basically take away the ability to get further leverage, and they don't like landlords. Fannie and Freddie do not want people to be using their money to become wealthy. So what we really did was, or what I really did, because at the time I was single, I just looked at it and said, okay, I can get, instead of 20% down, I can buy at, I think at the time, I think it was only conventional. I think that was my only option, was conventional. I think it was 5, like Dion was talking about. 5, it might have been 10, but you could only buy with that type of debt structure and at that lower down payment if it was going to be an owner occupied. And so for me, that was a no-brainer, because going and looking at a 3 unit that was $375,000, I did not have $85,000, which was the 20% plus closing costs. I didn't have 85 grand to buy that building and then become an investor and landlord. And so my only option was to essentially buy things. And the 4-3-2-1 strategy is becoming owner occupied. You are able to now, with what the rules are today, my rules don't matter, but what the rules are today, you can buy in many cases, a 5%, and Fannie's opening up. Make sure you're looking for the right lender, because lenders do differ in the products that they understand and know about. There are packages out there where you can get a 5% down 4-unit loan for owner occupied only. There are those packages out there. And so when you find those packages, when you find those brokers that are able to do that, they have their criteria. Generally, their criteria is, certainly you have to have the reasonable debt to income. They'll usually allow you to count anywhere from 75, depending on the bank, 75 to 85% of the rents towards your mortgage payment. And so what does that often do? That often will, on a fourplex, will often put you in a position where your rent is $0. We just did a deal this year, and that deal that we did this year was a 3.5% loan down. This was not my deal. This was actually a student's deal. 3.5% loan down. We got the seller to cover closing costs. And all he had to bring to the table on a $309,000 purchase on a 4-unit that was not in the best of shape, $309,000 4-unit, he had to bring $8,000 to the table, a little over $8,000, like $8,800. He bought that. He then did some work in the unit that he was going to move into. And where he's at today is now a year later, he makes $800 a month and lives there for free in his fourplex.
Magic.
So he's already done the path. That's basically step one. And then what you do is you just follow that path. What some people don't understand is that Fannie Freddie really do frown on once you're in a single family home, moving back into a 2, a 3, or a 4. What you have to prove to them is typically that you've moved out of the area, you're trying to change school districts. There's a number of different things that you can use to justify the move. But largely they won't let you turn that first home into a rental. It really depends on your mortgage broker and how fluent they are with those rules and processes. So the 4-3-2-1 strategy is starting off in a fourplex. After only a year, you're able to move out of that home, because that's the only commitment that you're making, is that you'll be there for 12 months. Your intent to occupy for 12 months, and don't play with the game intent. Do it. Follow through. You need to be doing that. Unless it's a real life change, you really need to follow through and play by the rules. Mm-hmm. The next step is getting into the 3-unit. But what most people don't know is that a lot of times you can actually go from a 4 to a 4. So if you can take that extra step and go 4 to 4, it's awesome. But anyway, the rest of the strategy is really just 4-unit to 3-unit. Then you're there for a year. You get locked in. A lot of times, even in the 3 units, you're still living for free. Mm-hmm. When you go to the duplex, that's when you're usually going to be chipping in a little bit of monthly money. But again, it gives you the entire year, all the income that you have or that you and your spouse have. All of that money then can go directly into creating the next down payment. Yep. And you can refi, as Dion was saying, you can refi out of the 3.5% loan that you can now get on that first property. However, in this particular student's case, he got a 3.25 mortgage. He'd be looking at like a 5.5 or a 5.75. So he's not going to refi out of that FHA. He's going to move into the next one with a conventional loan, and he'll probably be at that 5% number, maybe 10% number, but he's saved all of the money over this last year, plus the $800 a month that he's made as a landlord of that first property that he'll then be able to put into either A, another 4-unit, or B, start the track down to the 3-unit.
Yeah. And again, what I love about these stories, not only your individual experiences, but I get to merge your two stories, right? So we have the 4-3-2-1 strategy, which is awesome and game changing for folks. But we also have the ability to talk about the income snowball, which is something Dion brings. And the 4-3-2-1 strategy is the mother of all income snowballs. In most cases, for most buyers, by the time you get to the 1, you probably have replaced at least one, if not both your incomes. So Dion, kind of bring us home before we get to student questions about what the income snowball is and why it's so powerful.
So the income snowball happens if you house hack or you don't house hack, but it's amplified because you're reducing your largest expense while you're adding multiple cash flow sources. So to use my story as the example, I was paying a mortgage in a house. Moved into an apartment. I was paying for the apartment, but the house started the cash flow. So that starts to make money. From the apartment to the duplex, I went from $1,500 a month down to $300 a month. So that's an additional $1,200 a month in savings that I'm no longer having to put out. It's more than that with taxes because you have to earn that money. Then every additional property that I added to the cash flow. So right now, most people have their W-2 as their source of income. And they think, I don't want to buy a rental because it's only going to make $300 or $400 a month, and that's not life-changing. But 3 of them starts to be life-changing. And when you get to 4, it is life-changing. And so here's a really quick breakdown on what my house hacking looks like today. Just to show how the income snowball with one property is impacting what I make versus what the average person is making without looking at our jobs. A lot of people are paying about $1,500 for their mortgage. I think the average rent in the nation, I think, just crossed, what was it, 2,000 or 1,000?
1847.
Okay, so 18, so it's almost 2,000. So we'll go with 1,500. Nice low, we'll estimate it low. I'm in a fourplex where when I moved in the first year, I was being paid $1,700 a month to live here. Since then, we had a pandemic and I got to use the binder strategy on the other 3 units and the roommates. I'm now being paid $2,500 a month to live where I'm at. So an average person is paying $1,500 a month for where they live. At the one property where I'm house hacking, I'm being paid $2,500 a month. So before we look at what we're doing for income, there is a $4,000 gap in our monthly income between me and the average person, just from one house hack. And I like how Matt said it. If you go for a duplex, my first one, I was still paying a little, but I was able to reduce that payment. When you go for a triplex or a fourplex, it's very common to live for 0 or be paid to live where you're at.
Yeah. All right, folks. Again, this is the first 30 minutes. We're getting to understand the guys, the stories, their beliefs. Now, the next hour are your questions. So the rules are first come, first serve. So put your questions, comments in right now in the little chat. We're at first question. We had a lot of people say good morning, hello, and they're super pumped. We're going to get into the questions. First from Cash Flow Johnny. I'm looking to introduce my 20-year-old son into house hacking. So thank you for bringing me these things. I can show him because I definitely not done it. So what would you, Dion, how old is your oldest child?
Now?
Yeah, now, today.
33.
And your youngest?
22.
Do they, either of those 3, house hack?
They have roommates.
Okay.
They're renting. All 3 of them have roommates. So they're all house hacking in their own version.
Mm-hmm.
My son is saving for his first duplex.
Okay. So house hacking, did you actually talk to them as they were growing up and explain why this is good and why this is powerful? Did you have that father, son, daughter conversations?
Not really. They knew why I was house hacking my way through the police academy, but they didn't understand later. They just knew I wanted to move to an apartment. It was less of a commute. It was closer to work. I never really explained the finances of it. Like most parents, I don't think I had a good grasp of finances when I started.
Yeah.
The magic trick to get your kids to pay attention and actually listen to you is make a YouTube channel. My son will come to me now after I took 3 days to research a topic and make a video, and he will come and talk to me with the information, and it makes it so much easier.
That's funny. Yeah, the thing that I always found was throwing money on the counter. That caught Teresa's attention. Yeah. And Matt, your oldest is not yet able to sign loan docs.
Not yet, but he does have a rental agreement. He'll start paying at 18.
That's hilarious.
I mean, at the end of the, we do talk, just so you know too, though, we do talk to our kids about it. We bring it up in very practical ways. You know, we talk about, he understands when I ask him, I say, why do we buy houses that we have people rent from us? And he will always answer cash flow.
Nice.
And so it's really important. There's no too young to start. And, you know, when my kids are in their high school years, they will have buy boxes where they're looking at colleges and where they will absolutely be going through that exercise, because they will know more than 99% of the agents out there, because that is them owning their future.
Very cool. Question from Samira. How should we compare yield when we are going to first live on one side of a duplex? Should we look at the expected yield for once we move out, or what yield it brings in while living there? So I have my thoughts on this, but I will go to you, Matt. You're on screen, so why don't you take a shot at this?
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would if it's a typical side-by-side and it's a 3-1-3-1 and the units are created equal, I would just take whatever number you get for that unit, quite frankly, and double it.
Okay.
I think that's the safe way to do it. One of the things too, for me, and when I looked at it as well, was I never rented out at that time to Section 8, but I knew that was the basement of what I could get for rent.
Mm-hmm.
So I would start there and work up, and I would look at Craigslist, and that was, I mean, for some of them, it was still the paper is where you found your tenants.
You're that old.
Yeah, I'm that old. I've been doing it that long. So yeah, I recommend looking at that number. If they're identical units, then doing that. If not, adjust based on that. But yeah, I think that's the safe way to do it, because I always want to underestimate versus overestimate and get happy ears and think that I'm going to crush it.
Cool. And Dion, you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah, there's 2 things when it comes to running the numbers on a house hack. The first, like Matt said, run the numbers as if it's the year after you've moved out and all units are rented. And you use your regular strategy for, estimating the rents. Just like if you were buying a four-plex and 3 of the units were empty, you'd have to figure out what the rents were. It's no different than if you live there or not. And the second thing, and this was a hard one for me to convey to Mike, to Zuber, the first time we brought it up, because he hadn't house hacked. Run the numbers as though you did a 20 or 25% down payment if that's what you're paying for investment properties. Because if you use a 0 down VA loan or a first time owner occupied 0 down because there's a government assistance program, it's very easy to look like you got a % return when you're making $10 a year to run a rental.
Yeah.
Because it's an infinite return.
Yep.
So I like to take a larger down payment just for running the numbers, because we're not trying to figure out how much we're going to make. We're trying to figure out, is the yield comparable to the other properties, the yield that makes this the property worth pursuing?
I like
So that's the two things you do. Run it like you're all rented out, not living there, and run the numbers as though you did a down payment like it was an investment property.
Yeah. The one thing I want to say on this, it really goes back to my course, right? And this is me through and through. I buy the highest yield.
Yeah.
I mean, period. It doesn't matter. But I do want to I want to step back under the guise of house hacking, right? If Olivia and I were going to do this, we were single, Teresa wasn't around yet, there would certainly be other criteria, right? And if, let's just say, for example, there were two fourplexes. One was in a nicer area, better school district because we wanted to have kids, but was a lower yield. I want to be very clear. We would have bought the lower yield because it would have been, that's going to be where we're going to live for at least a year, maybe 2 years. So if I was making a decision on where my family is going to be, I wouldn't be all numbers, right? But every investment I make sense then is always about the yield, whatever's the highest yield. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, for me, it was B and C was okay. Like I was never going to go to D. I was never going to own in D. I never want any D. A is just not where I want to be from an investor perspective. So it's something that would fit the criteria of the type of property that I want to continue to own.
But you also want to live there, right? That's where you and your family go.
Yeah, but for me, it wasn't. So I did it with no kids, so school district wasn't an issue. And then safety wise, again, B and C, I don't find them to be crime ridden neighborhoods. There might be crime where there wouldn't be an A, but for me, that just wasn't a decision criteria. It was really, for me, truly about yield. It was truly about that.
Cool. All right. Question from Eric. Is 4-3-2-1 strategy possible after 2 single family conventional loans? We'll go to you, Matt, given this is your strategy.
It can be. Yep. It sure can be. Yeah. The thing, that's where you have to find a Matt the mortgage guy type of ninja mortgage guy. Yeah. He needs to be able to have the conversations with the underwriters. He has to be able to have the conversation with the underwriter to the Fannie Freddie contact. They're going to have to be able to have that very dynamic conversation, because you're not going to get, it doesn't matter. Like that was always what I felt was the death nail for me. I want to be in there negotiating that deal because I like how I negotiate and I usually get what I want.
Right.
And for them, you have to find that person that can carry that message for you, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to be convincing them, hey, this is really why they're doing it. Now, depending on the mortgage guy, depending on how their company works with the underwriter, that can be the difference between success and failure.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely the difference between success and failure, and in my personal experience.
Yeah. And really for me, having talked to Matt, the mortgage guy, and other lenders about this, it really is that story.
It is.
Yeah. It's like, you're doing what? It's like Anna, right? Oh, you sold a Texas house. You moved to a different state, right? It's like, right.
We in one of them, I had bought a house that I was going to rehab, but on paper, it didn't look like that. So I bought the house to move into it because I could get owner-occ money, and then I could fix it or live in it while I was fixing it. On paper, it didn't look like that. It looked like it was a house on the water on a lake.
Got it. Cool.
So when they looked at me and they're like, wait a second, you want to move 25 minutes further away from a lake.
Yeah.
In not as nice of an area, but you want to move into a duplex that's run down. Is that correct? Yeah. And we had to show them. I had to show them. We went down the path of showing them the pictures of what the dump looked like, and said, this is actually why we're moving to a duplex away from the single family home. Yeah. And so we had to go through the explanation. The nice thing was our mortgage broker did a great job. We provided them all the data requested, and we got that approved.
There you go. So Dion, we'll go to you with this one first. What is the benefit? This is from Chester. What are the benefits you gain by house hacking units 2 through 4 versus house hacking a single family house?
Well, economy of scale, Matt brought that up. With a fourplex, you're going to cash flow more than with a duplex.
Yeah.
The single family house does have this one benefit where you get the lowest interest rate, because you get a bump. If it's an investment property, you're going to pay about 0.5 point more. If it's a small multifamily, you're going to pay about 0.5 point more. A house with an ADU, though, qualifies as a single family and gets you that lowest interest rate. So there is a benefit there. And then for most lenders, not all, so lender shop, because they're not all made the same, a single family house will pretty much always qualify for that 3% down first time buyer, 3.5% down FHA, 5% down if you have other properties. Whereas a duplex, sometimes the lenders were wanting 10 or 15% down. Triplex, fourplex, they want 15% down. So you have to lender shop for those conventional loans at a higher rate. But FHA can be used all the way up to 4 units at 3.5% down. And VA, I don't know if most people know this or not, but it actually goes up to 5 units. Some lenders will do 5 units on a VA loan, so you don't have to limit yourself to 4, still 30-year fixed rate debt. But it's going to get that 0.5 point bump because it's small multifamily. So there's the benefit to single family versus the units, better cash flow. Single family has better lending. A lot of people will say when you look at units versus houses have a lower turnover rate, but that's when you're comparing 20-unit apartment complexes or 30-unit apartment complexes. My turnover rate across my portfolio, the house has the turnover rate. The small multifamily is getting there now. I had 2 this year, so it's about balanced. But as long as they have their own fenced yard, their own parking, maybe their own garage, it's a small multifamily is still a house to them instead of a unit at an apartment complex.
Yeah, I can sort of answer from my perspective, having still have units all the way up to 20 units. Anything that's an apartment, 700 square feet, side by side, 2 stories, turnover is much higher than a house. Much higher. Yeah.
The other thing real quick on that point too is look at Fannie Freddie's website. You would be amazed, mortgage broker wise, it's the same numbers as the number of useless real estate agents that don't understand the market. It's 80 or 85%. There are 5 to 15% that really understand all of the options that Fannie and Freddie have. I looked at it myself. I forgot to bring it today, but I looked at it myself. There's actually, it's listed on their site, how they are now opening up 3 and 4 unit small multifamily to people that are owner ocs for, I believe, 5 to 10% down payments.
Wow. And
that used to not be. That used to be, if you were a 4 unit, you were 20%, or you were maybe allowed to piggyback, but you could account for, this, that, and the other. They are opening that up. And that's where I believe that this market will continue to flow.
Yeah. And then the other thing, just because I don't know where sometimes you see a question and, you're trying to read the question behind the question. I do want to highlight, if you're really talking about roommates with single family house hacking, which would be Spencer and Todd's conversation, there's obviously some differences, because if you're house hacking units, you're truly a landlord and thus have tenant landlord laws. If you're house hacking with roommates, the laws are different for roommates than landlord tenant law. So if that's where you're at, go watch Roommate Session with Spencer and Todd, because they treat it differently, because roommates are different than tenant landlord law.
Correct.
On many levels. Okay. This one, we can't ask Dion this question because he's never done it. So we're going to have to ask Matt. Would you ever recommend recycling capital to get to the desired number of units? Why or why not? I'm picking on Dion a little bit.
Let Dion take the why not, but from a why perspective, yeah, absolutely. My portfolio is 121 units.
Well, hold on. I want to be very clear, because this one bothers me, right? The question behind the question. You and I have both recycled capital.
Yes.
Clearly.
Uh-huh.
But did you recycle capital simply because you wanted a bigger number?
No.
No, neither did I. I recycled capital because I could borrow at X and I could get X squared, and I wanted to use. It's not about, I hate the notion of bigger is better. I need 100. I need 1,000. You don't. If you can get financial freedom at 16, good. That's okay.
Dion's way smarter than me. Like, he's got 16. I've got 121. Like, I'm the idiot.
You're working. He's not.
Exactly.
Where's the problem?
Need not go any further than that. But so what I would tell you is again, necessity being the mother of invention. I had to do it. It wasn't a choice. If I wanted to deposit for my next building, I had to do it. I didn't have a choice. I had to. And if the rates were a little bit higher, way it goes.
So be
What
it.
I was banking on was when I was moving into these units, I was doing value add. So I was doing lipstick projects, I was doing rehab, sometimes kitchens, sometimes gut wire jobs, whatever it was needed in that building. Those are the types of deals that I was doing. And at the end of the day, borrowing that money from a bank is an effing nightmare. Don't waste your time. The real way to do it is I did a 203K? Is that the first one? Yeah. So I did a 203K loan on one of my first ones. And I saw what a nightmare that process was and how they don't want to, the contractors don't want to fill out all the paperwork they have to fill out. They don't want to wait on the 60-day payment schedule. They don't want to do all of that stuff. So after that, I realized when I refied out of that and I got a bunch of money out, when I did that and the value had drastically improved, I used that as my down payment, a part of it, also looking at the fact that we were going to hack, but I didn't have to use all of it. So I used the rest of it. Instead of going to the bank for money, I used the rest of it to actually do the work in the unit.
Mhm.
That way it put me in a perfect position to where then when I was refinancing that one, I got all that money back plus more, and then that would let me do the next one. So that's what I did, bouncing from one to the next for years.
Yeah. So we'll go to you, Dion, because really when you're on this journey of building a portfolio, whether it's 16 or 100, you're either going to use the income snowball to make it faster, right? It took 2 years the first time and then a year and all of that, or you're going to recycle capital. So talk about why you didn't and haven't recycled capital, because it still works. It's just maybe a little slower.
Well, I'm not going to say it's because I don't like debt, because I wish I had more, like 10 times what I have now. It'd be amazing. So Matt talked about when they limited mortgages to 4, he had to do owner occupied to move into the next. So I have a paid off single family that last year you guys tried to convince me, why don't you do a cash out refinance so you'll have capital to.
Dude, it wasn't last year. It was like 7 months ago. Okay. It was really, so you could have gotten 4% money. Now it's just to be very clear.
Technically, that was last year. This is July.
All right, fine.
Okay.
It's only 7 months ago, but anyway.
Right. So when the interest rates made sense, but it would add a mortgage
It would have.
when at the time, because I thought I was going to work another 3 years. My goal was to get to 10 mortgages. I wasn't thinking unit count. I wasn't thinking cash flow. I was just thinking I can get 10 mortgages, owner occupied or investment properties, conventional in my name, best interest rates. Let's do that. So if I took out a mortgage on an existing house, I was adding a mortgage out of those 10, which at any point in time, they could go, hey, no, it's 4 again or 2.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to add the mortgage more than I cared about the debt. And then the problem I run into, and this is a terrible problem, hopefully everybody has this, there's about $500,000 sitting in my bank account
Yeah.
that I need to deploy. Had I done a cash out refinance, I'd have 800 or 900,000 that I have to deploy.
Oh,
You're gonna
Wasn't
wish
looking
you
for that.
had
It's
it.
a terrible problem.
You're gonna wish you had it.
I
Gonna
don't,
wish
because
you
I
had-
might even sell the house, pay off debt just to reduce the number of units. I don't have the,
Yeah.
I want 100 units. I want a 200.
yeah. This is really back to the net of the question: is know your plan.
Know your why.
Absolutely.
That was what I was going to say when the
100%.
question came up. Is the question was posited as to get to a certain number? Sure.
But for me, it's never about unit count. Yeah, it's the cash flow number. And again, I meant everything I said. If you get there with 16, you win. It's okay.
Yeah.
You don't need 160, right?
Well, Mike and I think Mike and I are in the same spot with, Dion, I think would downsize.
Mhm.
From Mike's and my perspective, we don't have a number that we're going to get to this number. We just want to do great deals. And
That's it.
so last year, I didn't go into the year saying, I'm going to do 10 deals. I went into the year saying the next deal I'm going to do is going to be a great deal.
Exactly.
And then it happened to be 10.
There you go. Here's one. Dion, you hit this a little bit. Maybe we'll hit it one more time. How do you convince your spouse to downsize or house hack? I think you've talked about this and you're the teacher here. So
Why would Dion get that question?
Well, so the best thing is I've been able to keep custody of kids and be able to keep a house, and I've never been able to keep a girl. So I'm the wrong person to ask, but I have helped a lot of couples. So first, know your why. Your spouse has a why too. So there's a motivation factor there, but find a version of house hacking that doesn't impede their lifestyle. If it's in the right school district, a house with an ADU, put a fence in the middle. It's no different than having a neighbor. You can buy a duplex that's bigger than your single family house. There are 4 and 5 bedroom duplexes each
Yes.
side.
Yeah.
So it's the way you present it that matters. If you go, hey, look, Watch 10 hours of Todd Baldwin. Your
Yeah.
spouse is going to go, no.
No.
But
yeah.
introduce introduce the information in a way that isn't going to like drastically change their life, and you'll have a better chance.
Yeah. For me, again, right. For me, the conversation with Olivia when we were, again, living the high life, like all the Bay Area dual income folks, we had to talk about what we both wanted in the future. And, as somebody who was excited to buy real estate, sometimes you need to shut up and listen, right? Because they have an opinion. They have concerns. They have issues. They may have baggage, right? You may have a significant others whose mom or dad was foreclosed on in the Great Recession. You just don't know. So sometimes it's not, for me, I always find there's always one party that's more excited than the other. And that person just shoves information. It's information overload, but we don't listen. So that's why I think Dion kind of listened and figure it out. So Matt, how many times did you move with your wife? Because you moved 9 times, but how many times did you two
we
move?
did. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it was 6 with Ashley.
And I was lucky enough to interview Ashley once. She told me about a unit that she went to look for that was going to be a unit, and she admitted on the video she came back crying. So I would argue that that's probably not what you want from your significant other.
That wasn't the goal, but yeah, that wasn't. I was like, I want to make you cry with this decision.
No, it's you had.
Well, so I hadn't prepared my agent either. And she had to go look at it separately because I was at work and she was available to go look at it when he was there. So I just said to him, I said, yeah, Ashley's going to come look at it. And she literally walked out of the door crying. And she was talking to the agent when she was crying. She's like, Matt will give you a call later with the offer. Because she kind of knew that was going to happen. But we had kind of talked about it though. And the idea was Ashley was going back to school. I had said to her, I said, if we do this, you don't have to work. You can go back to school and only do school. And this will make it so we can, quite frankly, just financially make it.
Yeah.
Like I'm willing to be the sole breadwinner, have all the financial pressure on my shoulders while you're back in school.
Right.
Because it's a short-term thing. And don't do this, but we literally moved into that apartment before it was done because we had a couple problems with contractors. It was earlier on in my career, and we ended up having to move in when the place did not have a shower. It had a toilet, but it did not have a shower. And so we had friends that were local that basically we turned taking showers at their house until we could afford to buy the bathtub to put it in.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened. So, yeah.
So again, in that conversation, it really was the story, right? You had a joint goal. She was on board. She wanted to go back to school. She didn't want to work part-time. She wanted to focus on getting her degree as fast as possible. House hacking made that possible. So again,
well, to her credit, I think she was going to still work. And I just said, but you don't have to. Like, this enables us to do this. And I think that this is a better choice for us.
Yeah. So another question from Samir. I do not know if either of you've done this, but basically, hey, let's say you live in a duplex. You live in one side, but the other side you rent by the room. Have you guys done that? I don't know if you have.
No, not purely by the room with roommates, 2 roommates. Yes.
Yo, so let's talk about that.
Not truly by the room like Baldwin or Spencer.
But you've had multiple people on the lease, like
Yes.
non-familial.
4. Yep.
You do that with student housing, kind of.
Yes, all the time. Yep.
But when you do that, just to kind of answer this question, you don't have 4 rent payments. You have 1 rent payment with 4 people that are on the hook.
I usually do have 4 rent payments, but they're all on the same lease with no other agreement. They're all in the same lease. And I explained to them joint and several liability,
Right.
which means that you're all in the same lease. If I have to throw one of you out, I got to throw all of you out.
Exactly.
Unless we do it amicably, right? Where it's like, hey, this person really needs to leave. Okay, the 3 roommates want to do that. I want to do that. Then it's me having a conversation with roommates saying, this clearly isn't working out. If we want to go through the process, to kick you out and to get you evicted, we can do that. But usually it's just a conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see this question. I would do, and again, why this is important, because again, you are not doing roommates. You are now a landlord,
I am
tenant landlord law.
correct.
I would do one lease. And again, an example, $2,000. You may collect 500 from 4 people,
I do.
but
Mhm.
there's a $2,000 lease.
Correct.
And if you miss one payment, it doesn't matter. They're all on the hook.
That's right. Well, and the other nice thing too is that you can usually get the other 3 roommates to understand and agree. We want him out that badly. We'll just cover his month.
Yeah.
rent for
Or
this
they're
month.
all going. Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. Dion, any thoughts on that before we move to the next one?
So far, the renting by the room stuff I've done where the rent is the rent.
Mhm.
I'm not renting by the room, but roommates come together to rent the unit.
Yes.
Yep.
So to me, that's a lot simpler.
Yes.
Are there specific costs and other nuisances to, I guess that's multiple dwelling units compared to single family homes?
Not if you separate meter everything and have the tenants take care of utilities. That's the one concern with all rentals,
Yeah.
is you don't want the owner to be responsible for the heat when the window's open and it's on full blast.
Yeah. So individual meters. What about lawn care? I mean, I don't know what your guys like. Do you guys like snow? Like in
Yeah.
you,
What
is that
about-
on you, the landlord, or is that
Oh,
on
yeah.
the tenant?
Yep. Yeah. Because what any tenant will do is they will hire the cheapest one.
Okay.
What the landlord does is that they hire the best value, knowing that the job's going to get done. It's going to get done in a timely way, and it's not going to damage their stuff, because there's plenty of guys that drive around here with plows on their trucks that don't have insurance. They don't have the lights. They go at 8 o'clock in the morning. What good does that do when I have 4 people that are trying to leave the house at 7 a.m.?
Yeah.
You know what it does? It has me getting 4 text messages from 4 very angry people saying that there's still snow behind my car.
Yeah.
So yeah, and even like lawn care for me, I have, out of all of my properties, I have 1 person or maybe 2 people that do the lawn. Everything else, I actually just look for a kid that's looking for summer work. They use my equipment.
Mhm.
And that's what we do. It's always a friend of the family, like one of their kids. That was the nice thing about having friends with all much older kids.
Nice. So we got another question about convincing spouses. You guys think we've hit that one? You want to say anything else? Yeah. Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's just it's a conversation.
It's probably several conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that I would do is, again, I think there's a lot more listening instead of forcing
For
information,
sure.
but also try to get agreement on what the 5-year or 10-year mark might look like.
Sure.
Don't make it about the event. That's what was
No.
for Olivia. It was like,
Yep.
what are we going to do when Teresa's in high school? What is that? How are we going to pay for Teresa's college, which we thought would be 200 grand, and it was? How are we going to do that?
Right.
So we got agreement on all of that. So
Sure.
from Roldan, what is the minimum length of time someone should live on a property before pursuing the next primary residence? Matt, you're on screen. You want to take that?
Yeah. What was the first part of it? I got the second part.
Minimum length.
1 year.
Yeah, 1 year.
1 year. Yeah. And you want to be in there for a year. And you know what I always do is so I'm always doing my market homework, but I start reaching out to people after I've hit 1 year. So I'm going to pick up a couple months. That's why I actually hit 9 in 13 years, was because I was not trying to rush it and quick and get out. Make sure that you have that 1 year, because you know what? That agency's not stupid. They might show up on day 365, and I want to still be there and have all my stuff there just in case.
Yeah. Dan, we'll go to you for this. How can you explain to an FHA lender that you are pursuing FHA financing again for a second house hack? Have you had to do that?
So I've not used FHA, but the people I've helped use FHA, the lender needs a story. So you can have a few things. The reason the 4-3-2-1 method works is the lender wants you to be moving towards a single family or into a larger single family.
Yes.
That's the goal. But it can be, I'm reducing my commute to work. I change jobs. That school district's better. Or there's a question that comes up later, so I'll answer it now. If the properties are close together and similar size, maybe you have a disagreement with your neighbor. It's an unsafe living condition because of whatever the story is, that you can convince that lender, because FHA is not designed to help people acquire rentals. It is designed to help people with bad credit and high debt to income ratios get on the property ladder.
That's right.
So the story has to line up with that.
Yeah, very cool. This is a question about financing. So I think, Dion, you've talked about this a couple of times, so we'll leave it with you. How does financing work on a fourplex or triplex? So we'll just say fourplex. Is it based on rents or income? I only make $60K a year.
So that's the cool part with 5 units or more. They're going to look at your net operating income. What does the property make? And if you can improve the value by improving your profit, that's the strategy a lot of people use. 4 units or less, it's generally looked at like a single family house.
Yeah.
Can your debt to income ratio handle it? Can your credit score handle it? So all the things are about you. It's a little more difficult in that first 2 years to get something like a four-plex and have the lenders agree to take 75% of your rent. They will, but there are some who will say no in the beginning. So your debt to income ratio can become a barrier. But after you have a couple of years with rental income, that completely goes away, because like Matt said, they're going to take 75% of all of your rents into your income, your debt to income ratio, which, with a couple of caveats. One, they want it on your rental, on your tax returns. And 2, some lenders will require that it's a weird word, but they'll say the majority of your rentals have at least 3 months remaining on their leases. So month to month and short term kind of get eliminated that way. And I thought that was a little confusing the first time a lender said it to me, but the lender explained, we're not going to own your loan in 3 months.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that it's covered while we're the people carrying the note. We're going to sell it probably in 2 days, let alone 3 months.
Yeah.
So that to me is the lending for 3 and 4s is your debt to income ratio can matter until you have rental income on your tax returns, but not all lenders are made the same. There are some who will day one go, these are the rents on the other units you're intending to occupy. So that goes into your debt to income ratio.
Yeah, what I would tell you in this sample is, again, if I didn't have a four-plex, and again, I admitted I wanted a house hack at 20, it's one of my regrets. It's all about your mortgage broker. You've got to reach out to them and be intentional. This is not a time to be a secret. I would reach out to somebody I would reach out to Matt, the mortgage guy. You reach out to whoever you would like and explain, I'm looking to buy a four-plex. I want to buy it with 3.5 or 5% down. The only way I could do that is if they count 75% of the income for the other 3 units.
Correct.
That's what I would tell him. And then Matt would do his job and he'd go, well, can't go there. Oh, we could try that. Oh, I can try that. Make him work. He's going to get paid when you do the loan. So again, you can hold the mortgage broker up to doing his job, but you as the borrower, the buyer, you need to communicate. This is a team sport. So
Yeah.
go get somebody like Matt, the mortgage guy on your team. That's what I would do.
Agreed.
Cool. How do you live with the renter not paying rent and hearing them every day and the anger associated with that? The answer is a victim. This is not roommates. This is tenant landlord. And there is laws in every state how to handle that.
Yeah, here's what I would tell you not to do. Do not shut off the water. Do not shut off the electricity. Do not play games. Don't do any of those things. Otherwise, it is likely that will be your last landlord experience.
Yeah.
Do not do that stuff.
No, don't. That's why I really want to that's why I separated Todd and Spencer from Matt and Dion, because one situation is roommates, totally different. We are now in landlord tenant law. So file an eviction notice, post it, and just count the days. This is from Chester. This is for you, Dion. For our fellow vets who may be part of groups like active duty passive income, would it be advantageous to use a VA loan for a duplex, triplex, or quad? I don't know what active duty. I think that's a group, maybe.
So it's a group, a pretty good group of information for all investors, but heavily centric on military.
Okay.
And it's about 50-50 real estate and stocks. It's a great group. I've been in it. I've been active in it for a while. So the benefits to the VA loan is you can do a smaller down payment all the way down to 0, and you don't get mortgage insurance. And recently, and there's a question that comes up later, so I'll answer it now too. They removed loan limits for VA loans.
Oh, cool.
So because people are getting priced out, you couldn't buy in San Diego with a VA loan if that's where you live. So there are benefits to it. There's 2 reasons why I haven't used my VA loan. So I would hope veterans would at least consider this. One, I want a better equity position. When I was buying in the beginning, I didn't want to start off with that. The 2008 housing crash was over 100% leveraged lending that had adjustable rates too in ninja loans, but I didn't want to be at 100% leverage. So if you do a 0 down payment, you're 100% leveraged. So I saved down payments. And the second reason I wanted to keep my VA loan as an option is at some point in the future, the perfect deal might pop up when I don't have the funds. And I can pounce on that deal. So yes, I recommend it if you can't save a down payment and it gets you into it, and you can have more than one VA loan. So a lot of people don't realize you can get a VA loan on a house, change duty stations, or move, use another VA loan, rinse and repeat. There are several benefits to it. The veteran earned it. They should use it. But
absolutely.
strategize with it. Know when it It's your best bet, and sometimes know when maybe don't use it.
I like the strategic example of I never know when I might need it. That was pretty clever of you. So back to the eviction question. There's actually more to it that I did not appreciate in the beginning.
Sure.
He's actually talking about the emotion, how emotionally dealing with it, right? Because now somebody that's sharing a wall or is close to you and they're not paying, that's obviously something I've never dealt with. So maybe my cavalier attitude of just evict them was not helpful.
So I could speak to that.
Please.
It's easier. They're right there. You can mean mug them without having to travel across town to stand out in front of their property. Sorry, that's the way I would do it. I've never had a later missing payment, because the one thing I wanted to say on this when it came up is the dealing with a non-payment and having to evict a tenant starts with screening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Find your screening
Absolutely.
criteria and don't flex.
Yeah, I've said that all the time when I get interviewed on other podcasts and all of that. It's and they always talk about the frustrated landlord. Most of us are screening. We let them in, right? Again, there's always situation where life events change, but yeah, so better screening. So Matt, you've had to do some evictions over time. How do you emotionally, are you just numb to it now? Or how would you do this, right? Your neighbor in your first duplex. Well, actually, you know what? You went from 8 paying tenants to 1. That wasn't any fun. How'd you emotionally handle that?
Broke lots of stuff.
So not well.
Yeah. Ask the guy with the short fuse, why don't you? But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it sucks. They're getting away with it. Like, I have a big time part of my personality is like off the charts, like justice mentality. Like, I just want justice to be served. And every single day that passes, justice is not being served. But recognize that anything that you do will jeopardize justice. Anything that you do that's wrong or sideways, it will only jeopardize your justice. So all you have to do is be patient, be effective. What I would make sure that you do is do not have conversation with them. Everything must be through email or text, period, end of story.
Yeah.
And I want them to feel the full weight of my attorney, which is, I might know the process. I think Dion's brilliant in his strategy saying never an eviction, because then they know the process. And so for me, I always go with the same thing, which is, if you've been evicted once, you know exactly how to drag this thing on.
Yeah.
So for me, a normal person is fearful when they get a certified letter from an attorney. They know it's no longer a game.
Yeah. Shout out Patty, 63 years old and house hacking her condo.
Right.
She reached out to nurses site. She's got 2 29-year-old nurses helping pay an extra $1,000. So Patty, yeah, I talked about it with Spencer and Todd. I believe not only do we need to get 20-year-olds thinking about house hacking, but baby boomers should be thinking about it as well. So Patty, nice job.
Yeah.
Nice job.
I'm going to bring that strategy to Ashley.
There you go. Hey, Ashley, what do you think? We got we could get bunk beds for the kids. Deion's house hacking even more important. Long question. So Deion, talk about house hacking in expensive neighborhood or expensive areas, please.
So that's actually the thing that comes up a lot, is people say, I can't house hack because it's so expensive where I am, which is literally the backwards way of thinking of it.
Yes.
The more expensive the area you live in, the more impactful house hacking will be. An example is Millennial Mike. Lives in Seattle. He is a state trooper, so he doesn't make $1 billion. So owning a place in Seattle would be expensive. Renting a place in Seattle would be expensive. So he purchased a duplex and lives for free in an expensive area. But since he hasn't rinsed and repeated the house hacking strategy yet, he invests at a distance. He's investing in Gary, Indiana at a distance. But the house hacking in his area, in an expensive area, makes it possible for somebody living on public servant income to the ability to save money to invest at a distance. So the more expensive the area, the more important. I mean, think about it. If he lived in Gary, Indiana, a state trooper probably makes a third of what he does where he's at now.
Yeah.
So reducing or eliminating $1,000 a month rent is impactful, but not as impactful as reducing and eliminating a $2,400 a month rent, like he's doing in the more expensive cost of living area.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I wanted to dovetail on that just real quick, which is, I think that this is something that's often missed. I didn't expect to share this piece today, but this is actually how I built my student housing empire. This was part of it. I went and I looked at the different colleges and I saw what they charge for 7.5 months to live there. And then every single time a student, I would literally write in the ad, are you happy paying $2,000 a month for the time that you're allowed to be on campus? Or would you rather live off campus for the entire year for $800 a month? That was an instant yes. Everybody, that was an instant yes. And so we would have massive groups of friends coming and renting our student stuff. And that was a huge win for us because it was literally just that simple. It was understanding that you were going to share a room with one other kid and it was going to cost you $14,000 for rooming at college for 7.5 months. You had to go home for a month and you had to go home for the entire summer. My option, you get to stay in the place the entire year. You don't have to go home only if you want to. And it's only $800 a month.
Yeah. So Matt, back to you getting a roommate for one of your first deals. How did you get, did the lender, like back to your condo, 2-bedroom, right? The first one?
Yeah.
Did they count the income or as, I don't know, what, I guess rent? Did they count the rent on your mortgage?
So they counted. Yeah. So the way that they did it was I had to provide them a lease.
Exactly. Proof.
Yep. Yep.
Signed lease.
Signed lease. Yep. Signed lease by me, signed lease by obviously the tenant. So I had to approve them a signed lease. In my particular case, it was in a condo. So I had to actually prove to them that the condo was willing to allow it as well, which was super weird. I was just like, I don't understand why you guys get to say what I get to do in my own condo, but apparently they had some sort of an impact because of rentals and something or else.
Yeah.
But that's what we did. We provided all that documentation. And I don't remember, I think they counted 75%, I think is what it was, but they wouldn't take, that was purely only on the monthly on the mortgage.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
So talk about tenant criteria. What was it like when you were selecting your roommates? We'll go to Dion first. What's it like selecting, not roommates, sorry, neighbors. Talk about your tenant criteria.
So, right. So I've selected roommates when I was house hacking through the police academy because I had to have a young couple rent a room for free to provide in 24-hour a day live-in daycare. It was compatibility. That was more important than anything. But when you're checking, screening criteria for neighbors on a unit, in a unit next to where you live, it's really no different than your regular rental. Yep. I look at credit score, eviction history. I tend to do some things that I learned from running a company doing job interviews. When I meet somebody, and I don't recommend this to everybody, I'm comfortable with my own safety. With a law enforcement and military background, I will go to somebody's house by myself. I'm totally fine. So I like to go and see where they live and see how they keep it, because how they currently keep their house is how they're going to treat yours. If you don't do that, meet at a public place for lease signing, so like a Starbucks or wherever, but look at their car.
Yes.
How a person treats their vehicle is how they usually live in their house. Look in the back seat. Is it full of stuff? Is the windshield cracked and not repaired? Is it just general upkeep of the vehicle? What type of car can tell you a lot about the person? So those are things that I wouldn't generally do with a tenant at a rental, but if I'm going to live next to them, I will look at those kind of things more closely. And on top of credit score, no eviction ever, know your area. Some places you're not even allowed to ask criminal background questions.
Yeah. Again, this is tenant landlord law, not roommate. So know what is legally allowed. Don't get got. You want to add anything to that, Matt?
I think that's.
If you guys don't know what just happened, we just got Pink Panthered. This is a running joke in the Three Amigos. It must be sent to Matt once a day because Matt is still not retired. Dion, that was very sly. I like it. I approve.
I love it. Yeah, nothing really to add there. I mean, it really comes down to, believe it or not, it's like there have been people that when applied, it was, we had kind of a choice of 3 or 4 groups. And believe it or not, we had one that was just like, honestly, kind of head and shoulders, like on paper, better. Head and shoulders on paper were better. But it was, are you going to fix that? Before we move in, will you fix that? Are you going to take care of that? Whoa. Whoa. Like, if this is what you're like on a walkthrough, you're going to be a nightmare as a tenant, because next door, I might come in late from work. I might need to leave at 4:30 in the morning to go catch a flight. And you're going to complain because I woke you up because I might have slammed the door by mistake. So we like people like go along to get along, just kind of more relaxed. And so we picked actually the next tier. We picked them, and we actually had them for tenants for 4 years. They were awesome.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
All right, guys, Matt, Dion, we're going to try to get through some rapid fire stuff.
Hey, Mike,
good, Dion.
Yes, sir.
really
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on Andrew's question, because we had a little communication back and forth, and I realized something else that might help more people.
Okay.
The benefit to house hacking in an expensive area is most expensive areas are tenant friendly. I'm not going to pick a political side, but most, really high cost of living areas lean on the tenant friendly side. So you'll have things like rent control, all kinds of other rules that kick in that don't apply to owner occupied properties. So if you buy a duplex in Seattle and you have to give 6 months notice in Seattle to raise the rent more than 10% on a tenant. And if they don't like it, you have to pay 3 months rent for them to move. Does not apply to a duplex. So, and verify that for your area, verify it for
Yeah,
Seattle.
it doesn't
I know a
apply
friend
when you live there with owner occ.
when you live in your area. I have a friend who invested in Bend, Oregon, which has rent control, but he was purchasing a duplex, lived in one side. None of the rent control laws apply to his, because he's owner occupying the property.
Yeah. So in California, it's a little bit similar. If it's a duplex, you're absolutely right. If it's a fourplex, it doesn't count, right? You got to know your local laws.
Yes.
So, yeah. All right. So let's try to do some rapid fire stuff. I think we have 20 some odd questions to get through.
Okay.
Talk about, we'll go I'll go ping pong with you guys, one question each. We'll try to do 1 minute or less. First one is Josh. I'm making my 16-year-old listen to this right now. He's at the age I want him to have this idea in his back pocket for when he's on his own. Matt, you're on screen. What do you think of that?
100%. Your dad's doing you a huge favor. This is get rich for sure, not get rich quick. You could very, very easily be in your early 30s and have roommates or have a fourplex that you have that you didn't pay for.
Yeah, what I would tell you is if you were looking at this at 16, there's no reason you shouldn't be financially free by 25.
Yep.
Just,
quite possible.
Yeah. You're going to be financially free at 25 and your dad wasn't. So good for you. Go do it.
Yep.
There's some motivation. I always like to go faster than dad. Dion, you're up for this one. When you house hack, do you give the better common area stuff to renters, i.e. the parking and driveway? You ever done that, Dion?
So I probably would, being the owner, but think you're going to rent out that unit to someone after you move out. So you're setting the precedence to the existing tenants. And so generally, if you're familiar with my story at all, I like to buy side-by-side units, not over under. So they all have their own driveway, their own garage. I prefer a garage when possible. I have some that don't have a garage, but they have their own parking. So I would do that and take the worst myself, but think of it as if after you move out, what's that going to look like?
I like it. I think I'll take this question. I have a friend who's considering moving and house hacking in Phoenix. With the market shifting fast, do you recommend now is a good time or wait a few months? This is really about learning your buy box. If you're going to be moving to Phoenix and you're following one rental at a time, congratulations. You have 90 days to look at your buy box. So you're not making any decisions. I think the Phoenix market changes a lot, 90 days. So I think it lines up really well. You don't just move somewhere and buy. It's not a good idea. Always a good day to buy a great deal. Oh, that's actually Dion. Look at that. Cody, we're going back to you, Matt. Would you rather buy an older duplex that would cash flow more after moving, or a newer turnkey duplex that would cash flow less but offer potential appreciation? Matt.
Old.
Yeah, because you're the value add guy. Allows you to recycle capital more. Yeah.
Because here's what I can tell you that you're probably not thinking about in that I hate appreciation. I don't care. You're also going to be paying much higher property taxes. Those continue to compound. 6% raise of 5,000 versus a 6% raise of 9,000. Which one's more? You're going to constantly be paying more, and you're going to constantly be chasing it. And the likelihood that they're going to get significantly more rent than you if it's in the same neighborhood is almost zero. They'll get more rent than you, but significantly more, likely not.
So this one, again, I'll take basically about yield. So was this Lori? Was it? Yeah, Lori. So again, Lori, congratulations for doing the math. Yeah, if you're in a market today and your yield is, again, we'll just say 3%. I'm not doing that deal. To your point, I'd go get a 10-year note or something. But it is about understanding average and then finding good or great. So in a market where it's average 3, you're going to be looking for 6s. That's still, that's Maybe 3 is good enough, right? So again, a risk-adjusted return of 3% versus 6 with some risk. Those are your choices. That's what you're trying to do with the one rental at a time strategy, is figure out average, and then you figure out if it's good. What I would tell you to do in today's market, because it is changing so fast, Lori, is give it another 6 months. Again, I don't know what market you're in, but there's a lot of hot markets that won't be as hot, and you're going to be able to find some motivated sellers. So I would coach you to keep trying. Again, I don't know what market you're in, but it could be very different inside of 6 months. We're going back to you, Dion. What % should you set aside upfront for reserves on a fourplex, assuming you don't have any other properties? Dion, what do you think? Reserves on your first fourplex?
So for me, the way reserves works is it did scale with the size of the portfolio. My first property, if it was a fourplex, I kept at least $10,000 in reserve. Your lender is going to require at a minimum, probably 3 months of your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Some require up to 6. But for me, 10,000 for one property was plenty. And I didn't have this complicated math equation of percentage of value or anything. It was just when I had about 4 units or less, so 4 properties or less, 10,000 was enough. Once I got above 4 properties, I tripled that to 30,000 because more things can go wrong at the same time. But I just kept it really simple, and that's what worked for me.
Yeah, I think simple is better. I think a lot of people look for some magic formula. Get a number that you're comfortable with. For me, on a fourplex in my market, even today, 10,000 would be enough. If you were really conservative, 12.5, but 10 would be enough for me. So Matt, we'll go back to you again. All 3 of us do not pretend to be, or do we play lawyers? So this is just an opinion. But Matt, what is the penalty if you don't push through with the intent to live on a property that you intended to house hack? So I think what we're saying is
Mortgage fraud.
Yeah, that's my answer as well.
Mortgage fraud. You're in trouble.
Yeah,
don't do that.
I don't think I would get all crazy on the word intent. I would say that's mortgage fraud, and that's bad.
There are 1 in a million cases where you can prove that the intent was there, but that it just didn't happen. That's 1 in a million. I'm not rolling those dice.
Yeah.
Not interested. Yep.
Well, Dion, I guess we'll go back to you for this one. If your local market works for purchasing multifamily units, or has that time passed? Oh, does it work? Are you still buying multi-units, or are you doing something else, Dion?
No, I'm still buying. I've actually had a few friends that have purchased deals that I would have if I was really aggressively trying to grow my portfolio. So you have to hunt a little harder. And the metric that's changed is days on market. We've said this in several videos for, I think, 2-3 months now. But watch your market. You have to know 3 things. What's going on with your rents? Study area average rents. What are rates currently? So check in with your lender like this week. And then price, but not list price. As the days on market pile up longer than what was normal for your area, you can start to make offers that make sense to your numbers.
Yeah. So Alan, we are not lawyers, nor do we pretend. We don't like mortgage fraud. I would take that question to your mortgage broker. I would not try to beat the system. I would tell your mortgage broker that you tend to live in the garage. Again, I'm not getting close to mortgage fraud.
So here's the closest I'll come to answering that without committing fraud. If you absolutely want to use an owner-occupied loan for low down payment and better interest rate, but you can't move into that property, do you have a family member who wants to partner with you so they can move into the property? You can use their owner-occupied, but your money, and make it your investment, and maybe they get cheaper rent for the first year. Like, there's ways around it that are legal without trying to say, how bad would it be if I did
what are the
something?
chances of getting caught? That's not a question I want to ask. Yeah.
I take less money every year on my tax return.
Yes,
to
me
make
too.
it easy.
Having gone through a 13-month audit, I will continually do that.
Yep.
No good. Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Let's see. Dion, for running the numbers on a house hack, is using 5% down payment the intention acceptable versus running numbers as an investor at 20 a bit? So they're a bit confused on why you do your analysis.
Well, so that question came out before I spoke on the one. So I think I answered that question when I said I run it at 20 so that it doesn't look like a really good return on 5 or 10%.
Yeah. Don't do apples and oranges. Don't run one at 5 and then everything else at 20. That's not a fair compare. Yeah. So there's FHA questions about the 1 year mark.
Okay.
I'm
not a
It's
mortgage
lender
broker.
specific too.
Yeah.
Some lenders will say 10 months. Some will say a year.
Yeah. So talk to your lenders. We don't pretend to be lawyers or lenders. communication, folks, and don't try to game the systems. Don't try to look for
No.
corner cases. Mortgage fraud bad.
People like smart. They don't like clever.
Yes.
Clever gets you in a courtroom.
Is there any way to get around PMI on these 3.5% and 5% down loans?
So the VA loan is one option, no PMI. So just sign up for 4 years. The second is Matt, the mortgage guy, talks about sometimes investment loans for 10% that don't have PMI.
Mhm.
So no lender has made the same, and what one lender says one week might be totally different than what that same lender says next week.
It's a different loan product. And also if you find a mortgage broker that will do piggybacks.
Yeah, the 80-10-10s were very common
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
couple of decades ago. So this one's for you, Dion. Has VA loans always gone up to 5 units? Corey as a service member as well. I think he retired.
So they've always
service.
done it, but not all lenders will do it.
So it's always been available, but the lenders that
Correct. So it
run
was lender
overlays.
specific. Wells
Yeah.
Fargo has done it. They've never, since I've been doing, they've every time they've offered, why don't you use your VA loan? You know, you can go up to 5 units for over 10 years now. And then there's a question right under that, Mike, about the VA loan limits. They were removed in 2020.
Okay, thank you. We'll go back to you, Matt. Looking at a next duplex lending, would you rather do 5 or 10% down, I think? So basically the 5% down gives them extra reserves. What do you think?
Yeah, I always want to go to the table with the lowest down payment, but with a return that still puts me in market average returns. That's when you know you're getting a good deal.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to get that, if I'm going to do a 5% down payment, but I'm still getting, good or better than average returns, then that's still a good deal. If it's a great deal still at that point, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, but I want to be clear, right? Sometimes we again try to beat up these numbers. If you're doing 5% down and that extra 200 PMI takes you to a bad deal.
Yeah, well, that's a payment. That's payment. So absolutely not.
Yes,
It
well,
has to still cash flow as a good or great deal in your market.
So Matt, I think you've talked about this. Let's say you want to go from a house to a duplex or a house to a fourplex. What's kind of the story that might work?
Story that might work is different school district, different area, closer to your job. Those are all things that I've used in the past that work. Wife closer to family. Those are all things that work.
Bigger
Yeah.
bedroom count.
Bedroom count. Bedroom count's a big thing. Although usually when you're going single family to a duplex, usually you're going smaller bedroom count. But you can also move even. Yeah.
So there's a question about rates. So yeah, John, I have that's why we beat up on Dion to do some cash out refis 7 months ago. Well, take the money when the banks are giving it away. It's tough today. I don't think I do my cash out refis today. Let's just be honest.
No, absolutely not.
No.
I talked about that with my banker on Thursday.
Yeah.
She's like, wow, that was really perfect timing. I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
Thank you. Yeah, I've done this before. So we've answered this question, Lincoln, about yield. Again, Dion, you want to talk about how you run the yield calculation on a duplex?
So how to run the calculations on a house hack? There are 2 things. You run the numbers basically like you would a regular rental, which is annual profit divided by cost to acquire. So that's how you calculate the yield on a rental. The way you do it with a house hack is you remove the house hack. You look at it as though it's the year after you've moved out, so all the units are rented, or the room that you're in is rented if you're doing it Todd Baldwin style.
Mhm.
And I run it like I did a 20 or 25% down payment, however much I've been putting down on investment properties, even if I did a lower down payment, because it's too easy to show a great return on a small down payment.
Yeah. So Matt, question for you. Again, let's go back to your scenario of four friends living in a unit. Let's say one of them got a drug habit and it's got to go. Would you evict all 4? Because again, it's one lease, or what would you do?
Have the conversation. It starts there. It starts with somebody clearly is unhappy with the habit. They reach out to me, say, hey, this guy's been a problem. And I say, okay, what's your solution? I ask them, what's your solution?
Mhm.
They're your roommate. You're all on the same lease.
Yeah.
What's your solution? Their answer back is, yeah, we're kind of thinking about that. And then it's just a quick conversation, which is, I can do one of 2 things. I can evict all of you on cause because you're joint and severally liable, or we can make an arrangement to have that person leave. But you're going to have to play an active role in this. And if you don't, then my simple answer is I just evict you all.
Exactly. Yep.
I love peer pressure.
Yeah. If I house hack it, oh, is it possible for the tenants not to know who the owner is? That's a good question.
I'm not afraid to let them know that I'm the owner. That's something I actually embrace. I prefer that.
Yeah.
You know, because what I found is it doesn't have them ask for more things. It has them be more reasonable in what the ask is. So I have zero. I always let people know, oh, absolutely. I'm actually not only the owner, I am also the one that is setting the maintenance list for what things need to get taken care of and done. That way they know that I'm not only owner of the business, I'm involved in the day-to-day.
Right, but if you have a property manager, it's very simple with a house hack to have your tenants not know you're the owner. No different than a rental across town.
Yeah. I would say that's a personal choice. I don't want anybody to know who I am. But you got to realize, again, just full disclosure, right? You guys are living together, mailboxes are close. It's very likely they're going to figure it out because your mortgage payment is going to come to you. Maybe they won't figure it out for a while, but it wouldn't surprise me if they eventually figured it out.
Yes.
So, yeah. Yeah, PM. Okay, good. Okay, a lot of
I
questions.
don't have a hard stop at 1:30, Mike.
Yeah, we'll go for a few minutes.
Just so you know.
Thank you. What is the name of the veteran group again that we talked about earlier, Dion?
Active duty passive income. And on Facebook, they probably go by ADPI.
ADPI. Yep. Oh, they already answered it. Look at you guys. You guys are so awesome. If I buy the primary FHA rehab while living there, get a HELOC on the new appraised value. Oh, so basically, how would you use a HELOC? So again, HELOC, something you can put on your primary resident, you use it, you move out. What would happen? Dion, you want to take that, or Matt?
What would happen?
So a
is
home
you
equity
roll-
line of credit
Okay.
on your
Yeah.
property is the same, whether it's a small multifamily up to 4 units.
Mhm.
There are some differences. For example, depreciation.
Mhm.
If you live in a duplex, you get to depreciate half the duplex.
Yep.
Not the side that you're owner occupying. A home equity line of credit, that property is your primary. And so you can do that. But it's just like if it's your regular house, you get your home equity line of credit and then move out.
Mhm.
Your lender could change the terms on you.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be lender specific. My suspicion is in most HELOCs have a clause that says if you move out, they can close the line. Will they close the line? That's lender specific. Right, because the equity doesn't change whether you're there or not. But again, you got to remember, what do I keep telling you? There's a housing market cycle and a lender cycle. And when lenders get nervous, they will close lines for any reason.
First
So,
thing to go.
first thing to go. Let's see. Oh, can you and your spouse have separate FHA loans? I actually have no idea.
Yeah, if you're separated.
Yeah, if you and your spouse is separated, you can. Yeah, again, I would ask a mortgage broker that question. This is not a mortgage. We are no longer. We don't pretend to be mortgage experts.
So you can't. The reason why is because one of the requirements for an FHA loan is occupancy.
Yeah.
So if you're married, you can't get one in each other's name. What's the point?
Yeah. But the reason that comes up again because you can get 10 conventional loans.
Yes.
Separately, right.
Yes.
But not FHA. Yeah.
Correct.
Figure out the right plan so I don't take this. This is back to, I think, Andrew running yield calculations. Again, I don't know what, one sec, hold on. Rule number 3, grow your network. You should be meeting other real estate investors in your network. Show your spreadsheet, show your buy box, see what they have to say. That's low, that's high. Talk to more people. I made a mistake. I wrote it in my first book. I spent the first 5 years living inside my spreadsheet. After 5 months, it was a complete waste of time. I should have met more people. Oh, so Dion, they're confused why you put 25% down when they're using the VA loan as a house hack. You see,
Right. So Lincoln, I've done 5% down conventional on my house hacks, but I still ran it as 20 or 25% because you're the example. You did a 0 down VA loan. So let's say next year you profit $1. That is an infinite return. It's not 10, 20, 30%. It's infinite. Hard to judge whether that was a good deal or not. So running the numbers at 20 or 25% will tell you this property that you're house hacking makes sense when compared to these properties you could buy as investments. So you don't have to do it. You could sit back and go, wow, I'm getting a 60% return on my money because of closing costs, immediate repairs, make ready, all of that. That was like, $7,000. And I'm making 10 next year. So I'm making 100 and whatever percent, but that's not really the math. because what would the deal look like if it was comparatively the same as the investment properties you would put a down payment on?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so let's wrap this up. We got through all the questions. There's a question about rates and whatnot, which I will answer in the daily financial news and things of that nature. I want to give each of you an opportunity to kind of summarize what we've been through over the last 90 minutes. Dion, you're on screen. Kind of summarize what you hope happened, what you took from today, and what you hope for everybody watching. Because again, this is going on YouTube tomorrow.
What I'm hoping for is that people stop being, and I tried to do this one time, but it never really took off. I wanted to change the term house hacking to the cheat code to wealth, because house hacking makes people think I have to share a living space, or I have to live in a unit with tenants living next to me. A lot of the questions were, what do you do if your tenant next to you isn't paying? How do you deal with that? Well, what if you purchased a single family house, lived in it for a year using owner occupied lending, rinsed and repeated that 10 times in the next 15 years? You'd have 14 rentals, 10 rentals, something like that, without ever sharing living space or living next to your tenants because of owner occupied lending. And then your family is the motivation, not the barrier.
Yeah. Matt, what do you want to kind of close with? Again, remember, folks, not necessarily students watching this on YouTube. So what do you got to tell them?
Yeah, I think if the best investment that you can make is in your future. And that's what I believe house hacking is. Make the best investment, the best use of capital. I call it the buck system, best use of capital. That is what you should always be doing. And your best use of capital is never, ever, ever going for a single family home. We have no other income and we just want the life that we want it as soon as we can get it. The further you push things like that out, the more time you spend creating the infrastructure and the architecture of your future. And so for me, my first single family home that I moved into, that I was going to have no roommates, no house hacking, no one sharing a wall, I was 40. So now, as Dion likes to say, I'm going to have a lot more go-go years. And no, that's not dancing, but I'll have a lot more go-go years than most other people, probably 90%, 95% of other people, because we set ourselves up to constantly making the investment in our future and doing the unnatural, quite frankly, boring and living life with a little bit more than just retiring off to our own home. And the fact of the matter is, you're likely going to live with roommates, whether they're your friends or just acquaintances or your kids. You're going to spend a majority of your life living with roommates. So why not do it and get paid to do it?
Yeah. So we have a request to show the Pink Panther again. Let's.
Well, I think I put it up and I tried to do it so I could make some noise so that it would show me to the people in Futureland who don't get to see all of the screens.
There you go.
I got called out for being mean to Matt the other day with some private messages because I asked him to send me a picture of his kids.
Yeah.
Because the Pink Panther's not motivation enough. Matt said one of the reasons he wants to retire early is to spend more time with his kids.
Mhm.
So I have a picture of his kids now that I'm going to send him every day.
You can
To
put that
remind
on the
him
back
that
screen.
every
too.
day that slips by that you're still working,
Oh,
you're
look at
missing that kid.
Look at
Thanks
that.
So I want
Rolden
to
with the
call out.
kids.
I want to call out Rolden because I saw that he was wearing a baby Bjorn or a Lilla baby.
Look at there he
I-
is.
Yeah, there he is.
Woo! Look at that one.
And that's what it's
Hi.
all about. I've got
Yes.
he's my youngest isn't that young.
That's
Yes. It's
funny.
well worth doing. Make the investment in yourself and your family and in your future. I tell you, there is not a day. Ashley and I talked about it literally last night. There is not a day that goes by that we aren't absolutely thrilled that we made the sacrifices that we made. We do not regret it, not even for 1 second. We missed out on nothing, and now we get to experience so much more.
Yeah. So again, I want to thank both of you. You've given us more than 90 minutes of a Saturday,
Sure.
which we greatly appreciate here at One Rental at a Time. I want to remind you how I started this. Let's remember where these two gentlemen came from. Dion, 3 kids, not 2. Apparently, I forgot one of his kids. He told me one time he doesn't claim one of them, so I'll let you guys figure out which one he doesn't claim. Of course, that's a joke, just in case one of them are watching. But again, Dion, 3 kids, single parent, made $17 an hour, and had $89,000 in credit card debt that he didn't know about. That's not a very good place to start. Matt probably outdid him. Sure, he didn't have 3 kids, but the dude stopped going to school at 13. That doesn't set you up for a very good life in most cases. House hacking is the cheat code to wealth.
Yes.
It is the best financial decision of more than half the millionaires I speak with each week. It is amazing when I go back and listen and ask about the millionaires that are now on my channel. More than half house hacked. It is the one regret I don't have. My life would be fundamentally different if I house hacked at 20. Folks, enough. You're being soft. You be uncomfortable for 8 to 10 years. Your life will change. You're going to be, Dion said to me one time, Michael, people need to invest like they're going to be alive in 10 years. He's right. He's right. You're going to be alive in 10 years. Be uncomfortable for 5 so you can have go-go years like Matt. Yes, he's still not retired, but it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So again, house hacking is the cheat code. I fundamentally believe it should be taught in high school. I believe, as we said earlier, to the 16-year-old watching, if you have it in you, and I had it in me at 16, I was a commission-based salesperson at 16, making 25 grand a year. It's probably like 45 grand a year now. At 16, I was printing money, or at least it felt that way.
Yeah.
If I would have house hacked at sometime between 18 and 20, I would have been a multimillionaire much earlier in my life.
Yeah.
It is that powerful.
Yep.
To that 16-year-old watching, I want to say it again. If you take this serious, you could be financially free by 25. Every high school student watching this, if you do this right, you could be financially free by 25. Don't change your lifestyle. Don't, lifestyle creep and all of that stuff. You can be done by 25. Do you know how awesome it would be to be 25 or 26 and not have to work for someone else ever? House hacking is the way to go. So hopefully this changes somebody's life. If it does, leave a comment below. The 3 of us will be watching this video. This should go viral. It won't in the beginning, but I suspect over time it will pick up speed. Please share this video in Facebook groups. High school students, share it with your friends, whatever it is. People have to realize that house hacking is the cheat code to wealth. It will set you up for a great life. So Matt, Dion, thank you very much for being part of the 3 Amigos, for creating content and giving us 90 minutes on Saturday. You're amazing. Take care, everyone.
Take care, folks.
Bye.
Ciao.